Welcome into the first edition of TPI Talk. My name is Scott Hardy, and we're very excited here at Tallapoosa Publishers to be celebrating the Alexander City Outlook's 125-year anniversary, and we couldn't think of a better person to provide some insight and some background on the Outlook than the chairman of Tallapoosa Publishers, Kenneth Boone. So Kenneth, first off, thanks for joining us.
Hey, well, thank you for having me.
Well, again, we're in the midst of celebrating the 125-year anniversary of the Alexander City Outlook, and so I just wanted to see if you could maybe provide us a little background on what your affiliation is and how you became an integral figure with Outlook.
Sure. Actually, it started with my father. My father purchased the Alex City Outlook from J.C. Henderson and the Russell family in 1974, and I was working for some other newspapers, and the publisher's job came open, and so I got the opportunity to be publisher here in 1989. I was 29 years old, and so I came and we managed to make good newspapers, and everything was going well. And then in 1991, my father gave me the opportunity to purchase it from Boone newspapers, and so I did that, and I've owned it ever since.
Yeah. Well, can you maybe provide some insight as to what the importance of a newspaper is to a small town like Alex City?
Yeah, it's actually kind of hard to underestimate the importance and the impact a good newspaper can have in a small community, because really it's like the old days when people were watching TV and you had three channels and everybody watched the same three channels. Well, in a small town, you don't have that. You've even got something smaller than that. You've got basically one newspaper. Now we're lucky here in Alex City that we've got a TV situation. We've also got radios. We've got some other media outlets and now social media. But the newspaper is the only one that has got professionally trained writers who understand how to vet stories, how to make sure that what they're writing is absolutely as clean and as factual as possible. And then we've got editors paid to make sure that what they wrote is they double check it. And then we got people that put a third set of eyes on it as well. And then you've also got an editorial board that would talk, do research, investigate, and try and make a really good opinion about a subject, and get that opinion out there in a way that would help other people in the community also share that opinion, or at least see one side of it or two sides of it. And a good editorial should always have at least two or three sides in it. In fact, if I was going to say Alex City needs to close down its trains, okay, and some people probably think that. I mean, the first thing I'd do is make my case about why we should stop having trains go through the middle of downtown, and then I'd write the other side, why it's good to have trains in the downtown, and then I'd say, but in balance, it'd be better to go ahead and make it a quieter town, and that way we can develop more along the train tracks. So it's a good editorial is not one-sided. It's not like the TV media you see now where everything's coming from one way. It should present both sides or three or four sides, and then help the community understand or at least think about what could be best for the community. And it should offer a suggestion. It shouldn't just be a negative thing. So if a newspaper does that, it can have a huge impact on a small town.
Well, speaking of impact, and been here since 1989, so that's more than 25 years of seeing Alexander City, and so the Outlook has had the opportunity to tell that story. So can you just maybe give us maybe a couple of your favorite stories or memories that you've been a part of during your tenure here as the publisher and now owner?
Yeah, we were talking earlier about 1992 or 93. I can't remember, but it was a long time ago. We were doing our Progress Edition. Our Progress Edition is the biggest edition of the whole year. It was called Parade at that particular time, and we had already printed the whole edition. We may have one section left, but I mean, it was like 14 sections, 14 newspapers that we were going to put one inside the other and then deliver at one time. And all those were sitting on pallets in the back of our building. And we had just a torrential rain, and the water came pouring down basically up there from downtown all the way in that little creek that goes behind the library and comes in here. Okay, so it came pouring down there, and the drain was stopped up over here by the Coca-Cola plant when there's a Coca-Cola plant. Anyway, long story short, the water backed up and came into our press room, and it was up to my knees in our press room. And we had when we first saw it, Billy McGee was here, and we'd all come to work. It was 8 o'clock, 8:30 in the morning, something like that. And in our composing room, where the advertising department is now, Billy saw the carpet get dark. And he was looking at it, and he said the darkness started coming towards him, and he was like, oh, so he hollers, and everybody jumps up from what they're doing and runs back there, and the water is pouring into the back of our building. And we got the forklift and got all the Progress editions up off the floor, moved them to a different place. Before it stopped, the water was up to my knees. It was up to my knees. We had, and what happened was everybody in this building, from the bookkeeper to the folks, the receptionist people, the advertising department, the newsroom, everybody rolled up their pants legs and got brooms and moved furniture and swept the water out the front door of the newspaper. So it was one of those things that you don't forget, I promise.
And I can definitely attest to that. Obviously, the Parade or the Progress edition of the newspaper is our largest publication of the year. So for that to happen, I can imagine if that were to happen now, I could definitely see the urgency in getting that corrected.
Everybody in the building was just going, "Oh my God, what are we going to do?" But you know what? We got through it, and it worked just fine. And it was before the days of Surf Pro. We did it ourselves, and the building survived, and Progress got out, and that day's newspaper got out.
Absolutely.
But it was that was something to remember.
I can't imagine. Well, again, we're here with Kenneth Boone, the chairman of Tallapoosa Publishers, as we sit down and talk a little bit about the 125-year anniversary of the Alexander City Outlook, and kind of parlaying that into the importance, again, kind of piggybacking off of that. In a day and age where you see larger newspapers struggling with circulation and advertising dollars, we've been able to maintain a significant portion of that and maintain its significance to the area. What do you think has been the biggest contributing factor to that?
Well, I think that's the trend in newspapers right now, and it's a pretty simple. It's calculus. It's simple calculus. If you look at people who use the Associated Press, okay, and say you've got a newspaper and the front page is filled up with wire stories every day, right? And those same wire stories are available free online. I mean, why would you pay for it? And our case, we actually have a lot of our stories online, but they come out first in print, and that's a model we're using at this point. We may change soon, but at this point, if you want to find out what happened at City Council meeting and you didn't go, well, the first thing you have to do is get up and go get the newspaper, and that's the reason it still works. It's always worked. It's in fact, our paper was founded in 1892. We're the oldest continually running business in Alexander City. There's a reason for that. It's because it's a needed business.
And I kind of wanted to talk about that too. Is that especially for someone my age or in our age group, I don't think we really understood the importance of what a newspaper was for maybe our parents or grandparents. But now, whether people know it or not, I know we had a little joke during the YEA presentation about older people being the people that read the newspaper. But whether you're reading it online or whatever, you're still reading the newspaper. And so, especially now with so many political things happening, and especially here in our area, I think the newspaper's done an outstanding job of providing the narrative and kind of making sure that people are informed. And I think that's the most important thing to a community, is having an informed electorate. And I think we've done a great job in that.
Well, absolutely. And it's not just an informed electorate. It's people who are informed by correct information. I mean, in the newspaper business, and here in Alex City, for instance, back when Russell had most of the people who worked in town working in huge buildings, sewing arms on T-shirts, right? Somebody could say something at one end of the building, and by the time it got to the other end of the building, it was a completely different story, and everybody believed it, and it was basically gossip. Mm-hmm. Our job wasn't to necessarily tell people what had just happened. It's to tell people what really happened, because they'd already heard about some of it already when they're at work. We had to set the record straight, and so our job is to tell folks the truth and do that the very best we can. And it's something that's hard to find, and it's something that you're not typically going to get on social media or by people just talking, because that's the way it is. Then when you're talking, you're just saying what you heard your friend say, and they heard what they heard their friend say, and before long that story can change. So that's I think that's important.
That is
in
very
local
important.
newspapers.
Well, before we wrap things up, obviously the thing that has provided this 125-year existence is the readership. And
Right.
if you had a message to our readers of the community itself, what would that be?
I think Alexander City is in a great place right now. Since 1989, since I've been here, I don't remember Alex City ever looking as good as it does. I don't remember so many new businesses that aren't related that are coming up out of the ground. We've got businesses starting up on 280. We've got businesses downtown. There's people remodeling buildings. I think we're in the early stages of a new golden age for Alexander City. I think Lake Martin has a lot to do with that. So does the economic development folks who have brought in new businesses to Tallapoosa County. And then I think part of it is it's getting cool to live downtown. It's getting cool to move back, and people are understanding the social benefits of being in a smaller place. And so I think that's really helping our town as well.
Kenneth, we appreciate you joining us. And again, this is just the start. Oh, go ahead.
I was just going to say, I've got a copy of
it. Yes, I forgot the most important part.
This is a copy of our the oldest edition that I'm aware of, and it's the third edition of the Alexander City Outlook. It's from 1892 in January. It says, what's it say? Hang on just a second. This is from January 26th, 1892. It's the first year, the third edition. And the first story over here on the top left is talking about a new railroad. Interesting that I brought that up a minute ago. And it's interesting here. You've got the personals down the middle of the page here, city and county news, true sayings, and then something about national news from Washington. So it's an interesting deal. The slogan for the newspaper back in 1892 was an annual fair, a new county, Alexander City, the county seat. So I don't think we do any of that.
Well, there's been a lot that's changed over the last 125 years, but the one constant has been the significance of providing news to our small town, and
right.
Again, truthful news, and so
right.
That's the most important part. So,
absolutely.
But Kenneth, thank you for joining us. And again, this was our first edition of TPI Talk, and we will continue to provide you with some other interviews of members throughout the community and talk about their relationship with the newspaper and the importance it has had on them. So again, my name is Scott Hardy. See you next time.